Everyone, welcome to my beginners watercolour pen and wash series. So we've already done a seascape. This is a small series of several little images, and it's learning you how to use the pen with the watercolour. So I am using a uni pen here, which is a waterproof one in a black, but you could even use a biro if you didn't have that. I'm on a little bit of Saunders Waterford 5 by 7 inches. I've got my usual Cotman palette, which is linked in the description, and 3 brushes, a round number 6, a round number 10 and a number 2 rigger. So I use the same things for all of my beginners series, so you can get used to them. So the first one that we did last time was more about putting watercolour on first and then adding the line. Because this time I'm going to do a little cottage, I want to do the cottage first. And the reason that I do the cottage first with the pen is because I want to preserve the white of the cottage when I'm coming to do. So I'm doing some verticals down at the minute. I'm going to concentrate on getting a nice apex here to start with. So we're going to get this shape in. And we're gonna, to make it easy and keep it easy with perspective, is we're gonna keep it that totally straight. So it's like you're doing a little house really, as you would have done as a child. Then I'm going to taper away. So I'm going to come this way and take these lines as if we were going towards the vanishing point. This one's going to come further down this way. So this is going to give you a nice shape. I'm keeping it quite light with the pen, and I am outlining, but this is to get our basic shape in here. So we've got a nice basic shape of a cottage. Then I might pop I'm going to pop a little window in here. I'll have a couple of little windows. Can you see how I'm just making a little mark, a little squiggle, a vertical squiggle, taking it that way. So you don't have to do a lot. And a little bit of a door there. I've not even finished the door off properly. Then we might pop a little chimney in. I'm going to pop this in here. And this will taper down a little bit. It's following the same lines of perspective. And we'll have a little one on this side as well. So we've got a little chimney on either side. And then I'm going to use the dark of the pen, following the line of perspective. I'm just all about contour lines now. So I'm going to pop in the dark. You see that I've got a nice dark on that roof. I'm going to pop in a little bit of dark just at the bottom here, and a few lines, vertical lines coming this way. So it's starting to get a little bit of dark there. Okay, and then I'm going to go straight to popping some wash on, and then we're going to come back to the pen. I always really like to do my watercolour first. This is my round number 10. Because I think you do less pen, but because I needed to preserve the white of the cottage, I have done that first this time. There's always a reason as to why I'm doing something, and I always try to tell you that reason. I think it's important to understand. Okay, so I've wet the sky, round number 10. I'm just going to come in with some nice cerulean blue. So just dipping into the palette. Get some blue in here. Some of this pen must not have been quite dry because it's actually moved a little bit, and it shouldn't because it's waterproof. So it must have not been quite dry, but it's a nice interesting effect actually. We'll take this sky all the way through. I'm going to dip into a little bit of alizarin crimson, just to give it a bit of extra colour in the sky. I'm going to come down to a number 6. And we shall come into some sap green. So a smaller brush means there's less flow. And we can start to bring in a little bit of foliage. So we're going to have some shrubbery here. Nice thick paint. Means it's not going to go too far, and this is all still nice and damp. I'm going to vary the height, put some higher bits and some lower bits. If I come into some burnt sienna, you can take some of that into here as well, and it makes the greens a bit more varied and a bit more natural. Sap green can be quite bright. So tonally, I've got some different colours within there. Just with a damp brush, I'm just going to come round and just get round the edge of the white of the cottage. And then I'm actually going to use a little bit, so I've got ivory black here, but you might have Payne's grey. Whatever you've got, this is what you use. I'm just going to bring a little bit of that just around the side of the cottage. I really want to contrast. I want that contrast there, and because we're using the black pen, we can get away with the black of the contrast here as well. So I'm going to make this nice and dark. Then you're going to get the contrast of the white cottage and the dark next to it. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my round number 10. I'll get some foreground in. I'm going to leave a very fine gap. You can dry it off in between, but I'm just going to leave a very fine gap. I'm going to bring in some cadmium yellow. If you haven't got any of these colours, I just want you to use a colour that's closest to it. It's all about using what you have and learning from that. Often when you start watercolour, you've been given a set already, or you've bought something and then you're just struggling to work with it. And rather than buy other stuff, you can play with what you've got and start to learn, which is why I always use this palette for this series, because it just shows you can buy one palette and have a go. So a little bit of that is flowing in, but I'm going to work with it. So that's a little bit of the cadmium yellow. Then we're going to horizontal strokes sweep through a bit of the sap green. So that's starting to give a surface there. And then I'm going to go burnt sienna. So I'm going to dip into the burnt sienna. I've not rinsed my brush in between. Don't really need to. I just want to create a little bit more shadow. This is more soft shadow and variation. I'm just going to bring some of that through. Then if I go to my number 6, and again back into the sap green, I'm just going to twist this way because I find it easier to paint downwards. I'm just going to pop some grassy bits in towards the front. So this is all still nice and wet, and I'm going to use a little bit of that black again because we know that we're going to come back in with the pen. This is going to give a nice contrast. You see that there. Just rinse that brush off really well. And I need something to give a shadow on one side here. So if I take, I've got a purple here. This purple is made with alizarin crimson and a bit of blue. So I'm going to use the cerulean blue. And I need to make sure that this isn't too strong. So I'm going to take a little bit on that strong, dip it into some water. So there's still some on the brush. I want a nice, neat front to the house. And then the fronts of those chimneys as well, I'm going to shadow so that I've got a light and a dark side. Okay, I'm going to dry that one off. Okay, so that's nicely dry. So just before I go back on with the pen, I need a little bit more shadow. So this is that mix of alizarin crimson and cerulean blue, and it's a really nice purple shadow. So the direction of the light is coming this way, so we're going to pop the shadow to this side, and you'd have a little bit of shadow as well from these trees, so we're going to pop that in as well. So this is just going on to dry, and having that little bit of shadow, and you can see already that that's just really grounded that house, because it was a bit floaty, and that's what shadow does, it helps to ground things. Okay, so with the pen now, I've really got to think about directional strokes and making marks that I'm happy with, and expressive marks. So I'm going to start with a little bit of work in the foreground, and I'm doing grasses. So nice directional marks, expressive, they can be a little bit scribbly, not too even. You can vary the pressure of them as well. And we're just building up on what we've done with the watercolour. So this is going to give us a bit of detail in the foreground. Do a few little grass seed heads as well, always nice. I always like to do a few things higher. I think that works really nicely. So I'm going to pop those in a bit higher. Variety always works. I've got those little bits there. I'm just being careful of this bit because that's still a bit wet. I can bring a little bit more onto the roof. I want to really contrast this roof. So I'm now sort of cross-hatching. So I've gone directional that way, and now I'm following the angle of the roof. So when I started this cottage, I outlined the cottage, and I always say don't outline. I needed to outline to be able to draw that. I could have drawn it in pencil, but you'll see now that I'm making sure that I don't outline and I don't do a full block. So this is darker towards the top, lighter towards the bottom. Then we've got these verticals coming down. We can have some light verticals coming down here. So I'm accentuating the angles by using directional strokes. I'm going to bring an edge to that side. Take a little bit up here, a little bit up on the side of the house there. Take a little bit this way, a little bit that way. It's just about dried now, that. I can bring a little bit in at the bottom. So I'm thinking darks now, accentuating the darks. So with this foliage, I can say there's some tree trunks coming in the distance, and that's going to accentuate that line. This is a bit damp along here, which is why it's not picking up so much. But again, accentuating that line. I'm going to bring some nice dark in here. And this is little sort of scribbly squiggles I'm doing now for foliage. Scribbly squiggles. It's all about choosing different marks. With each one of these pen and wash, I'll show you a little different squiggle or crosshatch that works, directional marks. See how I've tapered those out? I've started quite dark by the cottage because I want to do that. I want to get that contrast. I want to get that focal point. And then I've tapered out so that I haven't got much towards the top. I can pop in a few birds. So we'll have odds always work better than even. So I've got 5 birds in there. I can add a bit of surface here. So this is again horizontal strokes to denote that surface. It's just tying it all together. A few marks around here. It's nice and dark here on the ground. It's just getting grounding everything really. Do a few more squiggles, expressive squiggles, we like those. I'll put a few more in that side. I can do a few more. I'm just creating balance now, balance that I like. So these are a few more grassy bits. Okay, so I'll take the tape off. So there we go, so that one's all finished. So it's all about those directional marks, and I think this series should give you that idea of how you approach pen and wash, and it's not as daunting as you think. So I'll pop you another pen and wash video here and a playlist here, and I shall see you next time. Bye.